Hello, and welcome to another edition of Motivation and Money with me, Mark Terrell, and my co-host, Fanny Snaith. How are you today, Fanny?
I'm feeling very weird.
Weirdo. You're just a complete weirdo. Yeah. Of course, that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah,
Um, some of you might think that we put lots of thought into the titles of these episodes,
which of course we
it,
do.
but there is a certain amount of thought goes into it. But sometimes we have to reach out for some inspiration, and I've come up with the inspiration because I'm reading this book at the moment by Stephen Bartlett, and one of the things that he sort of talks about in his 33 laws of business and life is you've got to embrace the weirdness, and I sort of agree with him. Especially on a marketing perspective, it's the sort of things that we need to be memorable for in a good way. So I don't think we need to go and invent things to be weird about. We just have to be sort of naturally weird in some ways. And it's not just about our personality. Sometimes people remember things and actually it's not really anything that they'd ever sort of relate to. So for instance, he talks about his company that he set up and he had a big blue slide. And so that big blue slide became the most important marketing tool because when anybody wanted to talk to him, they had a photograph of him in the, coming down the slide or in the slide. Uh, Basically, he bought this great big 15,000 square foot building that eventually have housed his business. But at the time he had it, bought it or leased it, I think he only had a handful of employees, so he didn't need 15,000 square foot. But because he had all this space, he just went a bit crazy and spent some money on that he had on this blue slide. So sometimes we need to sort of focus on the things that we do that is sort of about us, but it makes us a bit more memorable. That's basically what it is. How do we make ourselves a bit more weird by being and also being memorable at the same time?
Okay.
There we are. Fanny, is there any sort of weirdness that you want to embrace at this
Well,
time?
when I was thinking about when I was thinking about this topic
Hmm.
as a therapist as well, how weird are you? First of
Hmm.
all, the thing you've got what I would say is like what's the definition of weird, which I think is probably different for many people.
Yeah.
So that's that. And then um when I think about weird, I sort of think about, yeah, maybe oddball, but also doing things out of the normal. That's a bit weird.
Hmm.
So, for instance, I looked up online and just went weird habits that people have. So, for instance, and they include in that cold showering, which I thought
Almost
was
coming
quite,
mainstream, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, People wearing the same clothes every day, not exactly the same clothes, but the same style, so they don't have to think about what they're going to put on every day.
Yeah.
That might be weird.
Hmm.
Um, so little weird rituals about what we do. I'm trying to think about what I might do that's weird. I don't think I do much that's weird,
Do you
really.
need to phone a
Especially,
friend?
well, it's not. Well, I guess the point is, it's not really weird to me.
That's exactly right. It shouldn't feel weird, should it? Really? Have you ever seen
No.
that video that goes? You probably pick it up on YouTube, where there's a guy at a festival. I think it's in America, where there's not much going on, and then he suddenly starts dancing. He gets up and starts dancing just completely weirdly, wacky. There's no sort of rhythm to it, and he's just doing his thing. And you watch it for a while, and you start to feel a bit sort of awkward for him because they think, "Oh my god, it's just so weird." But what happens next is interesting because someone starts joins him
Right.
and copies him. So
Right.
so they then copies what they do, and so of course there's now two people. So now you start thinking, oh, maybe it's not quite so weird after all because there's two people doing the same thing. Of
Yeah.
course, what happens next? A third person
Something else.
joins, and then a
Yeah.
fourth, and then so all of a sudden, within a few minutes, there's a group of people all dancing completely weirdly and wackily, but they've um, formed this tribe or whatever you want to call it, this where we are like each other. Isn't that the thing? That's we have to embrace our weirdness because we we sort of attracted to people that might have a weirdness that we're sort of associated with, or a weirdness that we like. And actually, sometimes we need people to sort of bring our weirdness out to sort of embrace it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you know, you made me think then. So, I mean, that sounds like the kind of festival I'd like to go to, first of all. That's good. And I was thinking then, I get told that I'm weird by my daughters, especially,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm always talking to people.
What, just in public, just randomly?
Yeah, I talk to
Yeah.
strangers.
Yeah.
I
I
talk
do
to
that.
strangers like quite, in a lot, really.
So when you talk to them, do you ask them a question, or do you make a comment, or what do you tend to do?
Well, I mean, it'll depend, really. It depends on this, obviously, on the setting.
Yeah.
And I won't do it completely weirdly. Like I just go up to them and go, look, I'm coming over to talk to you because I've just got to talk to somebody because I've got nothing to say. It'll usually be in the supermarket queue, or or in a pub, or something like that. And I think it's nice to talk to people, or I might talk to somebody in the park who's got their dog there, or something like that. You go, what breed is your dog? Oh, I love that kind of breed. Oh, it seems so cute. But, just start a conversation, and we'll end up talking about all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And I like that. And both Ren and Connie, they just go, Mum, you're just so weird. But I don't think it
they
is
wouldn't
that.
do that. They wouldn't speak to a stranger just that off the cuff. But
No, except that I know. I mean, but then again, I know both of them can do it, and I think they both also realise that when they do something like that, it generally serves them quite well. But there are, I think when we use the word weird, it's easy to use the word weird. I'm just trying to think about how weird am I? I mean, you see, it brings me back, and this is why I'm a bit confused by it now. The more I think about it, I'm getting even more confused by it. See, I believe that we're all weird. Oh, we are all weird, and I know that we're all weird when it comes to money, because I haven't ever met anybody who isn't slightly weird when it comes to money. And if I'm a general believer that our relationship with money quite often reflects the relationship we have with ourselves, or has a lot to do with the relationship we have with ourselves, then that will make us all weird, because everybody's weird with money. And then I think that if I believe, which I do, that there is nobody like me, and there is only one me, and there's only one you. So we all have our own pixel place in the world.
Yeah.
Then we're all weird. So are we then just asking, to what extent are we weird? In which case, well, there's an open question, isn't there?
Okay, so we've established that everyone's weird. So it's just about, yeah. So what makes someone weird? I suppose what we're talking about is someone that is just that's like you've described by your daughter, saying that you do something that they wouldn't dream of doing, or they're sort of almost like go and hide behind the nearest bush when you start doing it, because it makes it feel uncomfortable, isn't it?
It's got to be weird by a comparison.
Yeah. So what we're thinking about here, or talking about really, is what you want to do because it makes you feel good, and actually what somebody else might consider really awkward and makes them feel really uncomfortable, isn't it? It's almost like that. You see it as a norm, and other people see the same behaviour as some sort of weirdness, and that they associate it with being something that's not what they would expect to happen. So that's what we're talking about, really, isn't it? It's about what you expect to happen and the type of behaviour you expect, and when it's outside that norm, it becomes weird.
Yeah, but then if you take something like cold water swimming, I mean, that for me is pretty weird.
Well, I mean, with these things, when they first come out, you think, well, why would you want somebody to do it? But actually, when you start thinking about it and reading about it, you actually find that there's some actually really strong sort of indication that it's actually good for you. It's actually going to give you. It's not just, you're not doing it just for the sake of being a cold water swimmer, or or going in an ice bucket, not going to say bucket, obviously bigger than a bucket, where they talk. Just jump in the bucket of ice. We now know that it's not just about doing it. It's actually there's lots of benefits, that you feel better for it, and actually on a long-term basis, actually it has good health connotations. So if you make it a habit, it actually would benefit you. So those weird things that come out, if they have longevity, I think they become sort of connected to something other than just being weird. It's about there's a good good outcome that comes if you stick to this and make it a part of your sort of daily habits or weekly habits.
Yeah. So if we think about so consistency, and I don't mean the consistency of custard. I'm talking about the consistency of rituals or habits or whatever. So many books will say, or many people who do this will say, have some kind of consistency. Do the same thing. Have a morning routine, for instance. Okay, that morning routine might be weird to some, but if it's a morning routine, then it becomes very normal to you. And then you'll go and pick up a book by somebody like Joe Dispenza, which is called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And it will say, go to this morning and for this week, brush your teeth with the wrong hand, right? Which is really shaking things up and making things for you a bit weird. Is that the sort of thing we're talking about, do you think?
Well, I mean, yeah, well, that's sort of changing habits, isn't it? And making you sort of balance yourself out. We all have a way of doing things, isn't it? So if you think about, well, what hand I actually use to brush my teeth, which other, so, most people would be right-handed, so I suppose they use it right, but do it with your left makes you feel a bit different, doesn't it? And it makes you more conscious. So you're conscious of other things. And so I don't think, I mean, it's not sort of a weirdness as such, but it's doing something that's out of the ordinary that people wouldn't expect you to do. So going back to your talking to random people in the street or wherever you might come across them, you know, I do that because, but I don't just walk up to somebody for no reason. There has to have something, there has to be something going on for me to do it. So, well, you sort of connect with something. So if you both sort of saw something and then you think, did you see that? It sort of connects you, doesn't it? It's not like completely random. You're just walking out. Oh, do you know? It's something that you're not going to do sort of completely random. That would be really weird, wouldn't it?
So what is really weird?
What is? Well, I suppose it's something that someone can sort of remember you for, that it's not something that they've ever seen before or experienced before, that they wouldn't expect. Maybe they perceive you as one thing, and then you do something that. So I'll something I had a conversation yesterday with someone that I've worked with over the years lots of times, and he was sort of ruminating over the fact that he had lots of ideas that would be putting him out there, but he was concerned that it might affect his sort of long-term prospects in maybe getting a job or getting work of some sort. And and I know him pretty well, and I don't think he's going to do anything that's completely sort of write him off and have an issue with something. He's not going to do something like that. And I said, actually, I think you should really embrace it, because I think you're a really sort of funny person. You have a natural sort of way of coming across and just describing things in a way where people sort of see things in a different way than you would. And it's not weird and that you'd be concerned for him. It's just that, I've never thought of it like that. And he's just a nice fellow. And I just said, first of all, do more videos and actually talking the way you would, like we're talking now, because you're entertaining. And I think if you want to get that ideal job to connect to it, I think you've got to get your personality out there. So I think the important thing here is, if you have got some weirdness, unless it's something that's concerning and that might get you locked up, then why not embrace it and put it out there, and so almost get known for it.
I think maybe it was a bit like, so people who, I remember back in the 70s, my stepfather, who worked in a bank, he used to have a member of staff. I don't think it was him. He used to have a member of staff who used to go to work with no shoes on.
Right. Yeah.
No shoes and socks. Do a bit of a Sandy Shore on it.
Okay.
I suppose that's a bit weird.
It's a bit weird. Does anyone comment on it?
You remember it. You remember him for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, and it's like, who's that? There's a guy on LinkedIn who's in my thing. So, for instance, and this is it. Okay, so this is interesting. So it's memorable things, right? So there's a guy who has this duck on his head.
Okay, yeah. The sales
There's
trainer. Is he a sales trainer?
Cohen, somebody Cohen, I think his name
Yeah,
is,
yeah. I
isn't it?
think I know
And
now.
yeah, and he has a duck on his head.
Yeah.
So and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
so we're
No, it's
talking
not a
about
sales
things
trainer.
that sort of
Pete Cohen.
separate.
Pete Cohen,
Pete
yeah.
Cohen, yeah,
Yeah.
who separate, who you separate out for doing something sort of slightly strange. Oh, he's the one that's got that duck on his head.
Yeah. That's right.
So it's removing. Okay, so it's not being vanilla. I mean, you could say I'm a bit weird by calling myself Fanny.
Yeah. What do you mean call yourself? Is that not your real name then, Fanny? Is that what you're saying?
No, my name's really Tracy. No, I'm joking. It's not. But I could, many people probably would have changed their name from Fanny. Go, why would you call yourself that? And I've had people say that to me before. Why would you call yourself that awful name? And I go, well,
Yeah.
people don't forget it.
No, that's exactly right. I'm sorry, I was just giggling because I remember that classic The Chase with
Oh, don't. Yeah, 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 yeah.
We won't go there.
Yeah, and he got the giggles. Yes, that's right. But for those of you who might or might not be watching this, there was, what was his name? There was a program called The Chase,
Bradley Walsh.
and Ashley Walsh, and the word Fanny came up, didn't it? And
Yeah.
he got the giggles, and he just could not stop laughing.
Well, it wasn't just the funny name; it was the second name as well, wasn't it?
What was the second name?
Schmeller.
I forgot that, mate.
He was a German skier, I think it was.
Fanny
Anyway.
Schmeller. Yeah, okay.
Anyway, we're going off track here.
But it isn't though, is it? It isn't off track,
No,
because
true.
that's the point. Because you're saying, "Oh my God, that's a weird name."
No, it is weird.
So, for
That's
instance,
right,
if I came and sat here in a dinner jacket with a bow tie, that's weird, because you would remember me. So if we're talking, this is what old Stephen Bartlett is talking about, like being different and just being. So I received a CV once many years ago, when I was working in television, from a wonderful chap called Eddie Hamilton, who wanted to be an editor really badly, and he sent me his CV. And I used to get lots of CVs for runners and things like that, which is essentially a tea person. And I opened this envelope, and out came his CV, but also out came a Kit Kat, and it said, "Dear Fanny, look, I know you get lots of these, but why don't you take a break, have a Kit Kat?" Right? And I thought, that's good.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was different.
Yeah.
And anyway, he went on to be the editor of Maverick Top Gun.
Well, after you employed him?
Yeah, I gave him his first ever job.
Amazing.
Yeah, and he's done a lot of the Mission Impossibles and Kinsman, and his latest was Maverick Top Gun, and obviously he's doing the new Mission Impossible.
Brilliant. So that just shows that it's. What we're talking about really is how to stand out.
How to stand out.
How to sort of embrace something that's going to get you memorable, and if it's weird, then it's easier to remember, I suppose. And if it's in a context that you wouldn't expect in that arena, as it were, if
so
dressing in a different way that you'd expect.
So back at you. What's weird about you? And if there isn't anything that you can point out, are you going to get something?
It's a good question. I should have expected it, shouldn't I, really? I'm sure there's plenty of people who would probably tell you lots of things that are a bit weird about me. Oh God, it's put me on the spot now, haven't you? What's weird? But like you say, that it's difficult to explain something's weird about you because you don't think it's weird. You can only base it on what feedback you might have had. Where the weirdest thing I do, and I get a lot of stick for it, is when I just want to relax. There's a great YouTube channel, Big Jet TV, and there's videos there, and sometimes it's live and sometimes it's recorded. I just watch planes take off from Heathrow. And it just sort of relaxes me. I don't know what it is about it. I just see them taking off and landing, and it's something that's
weird.
But it's on YouTube, so I mean, it's mainstream,
That
big
means
jet TV,
nothing.
and there's thousands of people that tune in. I'm not the only one. So,
Is it live?
on Wednesdays and on Sundays it is. Yeah. I was watching it. Yeah.
What time?
Well, no. So last night there was a special edition last night because there was there was Korean Airlines. They don't normally, the A380, which is the double decker large, the biggest plane they've ever passenger plane they've ever made.
No.
Yeah, you do know.
I believe you.
Anyway, there is. So Korean Airlines, they don't normally fly that into Heathrow, but there was a special event that they used. They knew that this 380 was coming in, so they put a special show on. I know.
Oh,
I might. So there you go.
and you watched it,
of course, because I'm subscribed, and I got this notification, so I did. Yeah, there was nothing else on telly. Yeah, it was a quiet night on telly.
Mark. I've just found out something about you that I never knew. I mean, that's like that's sort of like the online equivalent of playing train spotting,
Train
right?
spotting, yeah. Well, I do a bit of that as well, but no, I don't do that. So, but yeah, there we go. So,
I used to live on in a house that had 6 railway lines at the back, and I had a friend who used to ask if he can come and stand in my garden and watch the trains.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
And he was a very intelligent man with a very prestigious job.
Yeah.
And,
so there you go.
yeah.
See, that made him happy, doesn't it? Just by watching the trains go by, not doing any harm, just watching them go by.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, there's I don't know. What does Elon Musk do that's weird? See, we think that these people are weird, don't we? That they do weird things. What does he do? I don't know what he does. What does he do? Does he do weird things?
Well, I think he's clever in that with his marketing of I didn't realise this, but actually Tesla don't really do any marketing, and actually when you think about it, they don't. You don't see adverts of Teslas, do you? It's basically just a sort of viral thing, and when they need attention, what they tend to do is they introduce something in the car that you would never expect. So one of the things you could do in a Tesla is you can turn it into a game experience and use the big screen in, and presumably you can't do it when you're driving, but you can literally turn it into and that's the sort of thing that people get turned on by thinking that actually that's really cool. I like a car to be able to do that. I've never been able to do that with a car before. There's other things. I think that it could make some farting noise or something. It's from each of the. I didn't realise all these things.
I've heard about that.
You can wherever you're sitting in the car or something. I don't know.
I just Googled what successful people use daily habits. So successful people, these are people, let's just frame this right. These are people who've stood out. So somewhere along the line, they've done something to stand out to help them get to the success that they've got to get to. So that's why we look at successful people. So Elon Musk here, apparently he's been said to break his entire day into 5-minute slots to maximize productivity. He reads extensively across a variety of disciplines. A habit he creates is knowledge and success. Oprah Winfrey starts with meditation and a gratitude journal. I don't think that's
not weird though, is it really?
No.
The sort of weirdness I always think is more like what Branson sort of used to get up to, not so much now, when he used to sort of want to sort of fly across the Atlantic in the balloon and all those weird things he used to get up to. And obviously that got the Virgin brand to what it is now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, looking at these people and just quickly having a quick read while you're talking, none of them sound particularly wild. Like Mark Zuckerberg is known for his habit of setting and following through with the yearly personal challenges, such as learning Mandarin or only eating meat he had hunted himself. I mean, I wouldn't say that's particularly weird. I would say that's
no.
I bet he didn't do that at the beginning. Do you know what I mean? I think that's like a progressive thing a long time. And Bill Gates reads a book a week, and then he also takes annual think weeks. say that was particularly weird. Bill
Yeah.
Gates spends 80% of his day reading. That's quite weird.
Who's there? Who's that? Sorry.
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, he's only. I mean, he's just got so much money now, so it's just ticking up. He can just probably got a tickometer in his room where he's just sort of getting more wealthier as the every second goes by.
I don't know quite how he does this, because if he spends 80% of his day reading, he also plays the ukulele. For 1-2%? I don't know how much that is.
Okay.
It's good. Jeff Bezos aims for a full 8 hours each night sleep, that is, and starts his day with a high energy breakfast with his family.
I think they're more like geeky stuff, isn't it? What we're talking about now, it's almost like something that you get just obsessed by, I suppose, in a way. It's not particularly weird, is it? It's not something that.
No, not really. No.
So you don't. Well, so I suppose you don't have. You just have to be memorable in some way, and obviously your success is down to, the actions you take, and most importantly. But I think if you want to be remembered for something, then embrace. I think it's embracing your weirdness. If it's something that you're not too embarrassed by.
No, I think embracing our weirdness though is a really good thing to do, and actually, I think embracing our person, the people that we are, embracing us as we are, rather than having that inner judge or that inner critic coming in and going, oh, you can't do that, or you can't do this, or you can't do that, is actually being brave enough to go out there and putting that weird thought out there, and not having to be perfect, and not having to have it all worked out, and just being able to do it, obviously with a certain degree of modesty. Like, for instance, it probably isn't a really good idea to turn up to something like this naked, or there's a certain amount of modesty that we need to.
Well, we're talking about weirdness, and we talk about just being just showing off, or just trying to get attention, isn't it? Attention seeking.
Yeah, or just
weirdness. It should be something that's natural to you. That's it's just a natural weirdness. This is the way I am, and that's the way I want to be, and just take me for what I am. I'm not causing anybody any harm. I'm just I am who I am, sort of thing. So I think that's the way to embrace your weirdness. It's just it's just something that I've always been like this, and I don't see any reason to change.
No. So in that ways, then we're talking about. So the word that's come to mind is eccentrics.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
eccentricity. Don't know. I'm just looking at some eccentrics, and who are eccentric people. Don't know. Oscar Wilde, I suppose, was probably one.
Yeah.
But don't know, all those funny people.
Yeah.
But
the thing is, what when I gave this suggestion, you text back, and I said, I gave you the graphic, and you said yes, excellent or brilliant or whatever it was. So what made you think, well, that's a brilliant topic then?
Because I suppose I hadn't dug into it very deeply in my mind, but the overarching thing was, well, we're all weird, aren't we? And I actually have a thing of saying, I do say when I'm speaking, I believe that we're all weird when it comes to money. I think money makes us weird to a certain extent. And I think that's proven a million times over when you hear people wildly spending money on things that are just like spaceships, Jeff Bezos, not naming anyone, or how weird it is that people live in such a poverty mindset where they have every single amount of wherewithal to change their situation, but they just seem so stuck in it, and that's equally as weird. So on that part of it, there are going to be motivations behind all of those things. So those are my initial thoughts, but I hadn't knitted them together. But where you go weird with money to motivate you to do this, to do that, to motivate you to not do this or to do that. There was a topic there. It's quite interesting, because I think whereas we've had a very flowy conversation in the past with this, I think this one actually has turned out to be more sticky than most, which is interesting in itself, right?
Yeah. well, defining what weird is
because
an
it's
interesting
how,
thing. And then what is,
yeah.
and what sort of weirdness have we experienced, and how weird are we? Did you actually admit to any weirdness yourself? Can't
Only
remember.
the fact that I've got a weird name.
Yeah.
I
So,
mean, I do have some weirdness. So one of my favorite meals, or one of my breakfasts I have, is broad beans.
broad beans, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Gosh.
I like
Just
broad beans for breakfast, and
okay.
I am very partial to a bowl of Brussels sprouts.
Oh no, that's blown everything out of the water. Brussels sprouts, you like them? No,
I
actually,
love
no.
them,
I jest. Actually, I'm quite a fan of Brussels sprouts because you can.
but
It's not
just
the
Brussels
sprouts; it's
sprouts.
just how you cook them, isn't it? Uh,
Just Brussels sprouts with a tiny bit of butter and maybe a little bit of tomato ketchup.
I thought you were going to say like balsamic vinegar or something.
No, no, no.
Tomato ketchup. Wow,
Yeah, Heinz.
never knew Brussels sprouts and tomato ketchup. Wow,
Try it.
wow, exactly. I'm not knocking it because I haven't tried it. So yeah,
And I
don't.
also eat prunes and walnuts together.
Okay, we won't ask what happens after that. Um, So it's all about food for you, though, Fanny, isn't it? You noticed that?
I have been slightly weird on the food front, but I don't think I do. I don't like shopping. To
Oh well,
some, that's
I like
weird.
shopping. I like shopping.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Not. I don't like clothes shopping. I like food shopping. So
Oh right, yeah,
whereas you like consuming the food, I'm not that I don't, but I actually like that sort of the just buying the right stuff and all that sort of stuff.
I mean,
It's
the fact that people say that they're going to go let's go shopping as
yeah.
an event, I find that very strange.
No, no, I wouldn't say I was doing that. I'm a typical man shopping. If I've got a purpose for it and I need to get food, then I
Yeah,
get food.
yeah,
If I want trousers, I go get trousers, and if I want a shirt, I
yes,
go get a shirt. I don't
yeah.
go shopping just for the fun of it. And then if I
No,
buy something that's a bonus, that's not the way. I don't think many
no.
men do that way. I think
I don't. Well,
women,
I as a woman,
yeah.
it's not on my rate. A friend of mine was going, oh, we're going to go to London for a weekend shopping, and I was like, please don't invite me.
You weirdo. Anyway,
Yeah.
on that note.
Anyway, on that note,
Okay, so we've established that we're all weird.
yeah,
We
we're
should
all
embrace it and not hide it,
embrace
as
it.
long as it's not something that's offensive and going to cause you an issue in any way. So I think we should leave it really. If you
Yeah,
did enjoy this conversation, then we're up for the conversation about anything really. If we can link it to motivation and money, then we will. We don't always do that, but there is a sort of commentation with regards to motivation. I get some people sort of almost objecting sometimes to their top motivators, and it's almost as if they feel as if they're a bit weird, but it's not. It's actually embracing that's the thing that's important to you. So make sure it's been fulfilled and it's okay, sort of thing. So. Right, so our time's up, I think, Fanny. I think it's time for us to go and do something a bit more sensible and less weird. So, any message you want to put out there before we go our
I
separate
think
ways?
the question is accept weirdness, like you've just said, and if you can't think of ways that you're weird, ask somebody else so that you can join the weird club. Because I think actually we're all members of it, whether we like it or not, and it would probably be good to know where, how, why.
That's a great shout. Get some feedback. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the only question you ask them is, "How weird am I?" And see what happens. See what
Mm.
comes back from your inner circle. Yeah,
Yeah.
put it out on social media that you might get some things you might not appreciate. Anyway, thank you, Fanny. Really enjoyed it, and we
Yeah.
will see you again some other time in the future when we do another one of these sessions on motivation and money. And we might get a little bit sidetracked, who knows? But anyway, hopefully you get some value from it. And if you want to make some comments, we'd love to hear from you. So please get in touch. And you'll find out how to at the end of the show. So bye for now.
Bye bye.